I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about the songs for tonight. I've been doing this the last few times, so I thought I'd continue to do it again. Up first, we have tonight for you Ancient Aaron Dance by Elliot Del Borgo. Mr. Del Borgo was a very modern composer that started in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s, and really wanted to bring modern music, modern classical music to the band world. So he uses a lot of techniques that we would hear from some of the great composers of the late 20th century in his pieces. Ancient Aaron Dance is a piece that is meant to be very modern sounding, but about a very old theme. So what he basically tried to do is to create this medieval sound and create two parts here. The air, which would be the slower section, where you're going to hear the clarinets do some things in their lower register and make it sound really, set the mood for it. And then the dance that he creates later on changes the meter, changes from 4/4 to 3/4, and so you can kind of feel it dance around as it goes in there. So you're going to get to hear that in his piece. Then we go back about a century earlier, but you'd never guess it by what you're going to hear, from Mars by Gustav Holst. Back right before the First World War, Gustav Holst decided that he wanted to create a series of pieces centered around the planets, and especially the astrological signs that are associated with the planets. So Mars was the bringer of war, and he created a piece for every one of them except Pluto, which at that time nobody knew about, and has since also lost its planet. Isn't that the one that's lost its planet? Yeah, more Pluto. And Earth, because Earth is boring, I guess. So he didn't do one about Earth, but he did Mars, about the bringer of war. And so you will hear in this the chaos of war, the destructive nature of war, some things that really grate against each other in the harmonies and that sort of thing. And he was really ahead of his time, because then in the 1970s, a little known composer by the name of, at that time, going by the name of Johnny Williams, was tasked to create some music for a movie that nobody saw going anywhere, a little movie called Star Wars. And so for his inspiration for Star Wars, he listened to Gustav Holst's Planet Suites, and he used Mars as his inspiration for the Darth Vader theme. So as you listen to this, you may hear those hints of, oh, that sounds a little bit like the Imperial March. Later on, then he used the Jupiter, which we're not playing tonight, for some of his theme for the Force. So, like I said, even though it's 100 years earlier than the first piece you're going to hear, it actually is going to sound in some ways more modern to you. So those will be the two pieces that this band is performing tonight. And then when we get to the symphonic band, they're going to start with a piece by a man, Robert W. Smith was about the same age as Elliot Del Borgo, and did a lot of interesting things in his music where he tried to make sound effects out of things as he was composing pieces. He had a piece called The Great Steamboat Race, where he used the percussion to create the churning of the water as the steamship went down the Mississippi. He had another piece called Inchon, where he used different effects of bass drum heads off the bass drums to make the sound of the helicopters during the Vietnam War. This piece, Incantations, is a little bit earlier than those, so he hadn't fully developed his sense of sound effects yet. But an incantation is a spell or a chant. So you're going to hear in this one some things, I think, in a way that are similar to the Elliot Del Borgo piece, but in some ways very different. So as you're hearing it, think of these witches or whatever, warlocks, wizards, conjuring up these chants, these spells, and that sort of thing as we go through incantations. Our second piece, Beyond the Horizon, is one of my favorite to do because it always reminds me of at Epcot at Walt Disney World, which some of us happen to be going to soon. There is an awesome ride, one of the best rides that, in my opinion, and it is called, no, not Spaceship Earth, my mind just went blank. Soarin', oh my gosh, Soarin'. It's such a great ride that I remember the name, yeah, Soarin'. And as people are experiencing this ride, and some of these kids that haven't done it yet, I don't want to give it away to them, but the music that goes with it really has this soaring and seeming like it's kind of gliding along on the edge of the horizon kind of feel, and that's what this music sounds like as well. The composer, Rosado Galante, was inspired by the views that he had seen. He didn't go up as an astronaut himself, but the views that were beamed back to Earth the first time that men went up into the spaceships and they looked out on the horizon of the Earth from up above, and how brilliant the blues were, and just how humbling and awe-inspiring that was. So we'll do that one, and I do recommend to everybody that's going to Disney World to ride Soarin'. It's just an awesome ride, and if you're one that doesn't like roller coasters and stuff, you actually don't even hurt to move. So it's really a safe one. Okay. And then finally tonight we are going to do a piece called "The Trombone King" by Carl King. When we think of marches and bands, oftentimes we think of John Philip Sousa, and we think of his marches like the Stars and Stripes Forever, the Thunderer, Semper Fidelis, and all of these that are military marches. Military marches kind of go at this nice speed that the military could actually parade march to if they wanted to, of about 120 beats per minute. Well, Carl King actually lived out the fantasy of so many kids of that age, of the early 20th century, late 19th century, and he literally at the age of 12 ran off and joined the circus. And so when he joined the circus, he played the baritone. And when he played the baritone with the band, he got really good at it. But in a circus band, you play much faster because, of course, the things are a lot more thrilling that are happening at the circus rather than the pomp and the circumstance of a military-type march. So their marches went much faster. The Trombone King is one of those, and he later on became the head band leader for Barnum and Bailey Circus, and then on to other circuses and other marching, or other bands as well, and wrote a lot of marches, as many as John Philip Sousa. He's just not as well known. So that'll be Carl King's The Trombone King, and that'll kind of round out the evening, okay? So, without further ado, there are more seats up here if anybody would like to sit, you know. And don't worry, I do have jokes, okay? Our principals here at the school and our superintendent, Drew Goebel, have been encouraging us to embrace AI. So ChatGPT is the proud sponsor of all your jokes for tonight. Okay. So, enjoy. Okay. All right, without further ado, we'll start with the concert band, and I'd like to bring up our Associate Director of Bands, Mr. Jeff Hendricker. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll bring on the symphonic band. Once again, Associate Director, Mr. Jeff Hendricker. I told all these kids today, or over this week, how blessed I feel to be here with these 110 musicians. We don't have just one outstanding band, we have two. And it's a tribute to their hard work and dedication, their willingness to do this, despite everything else, that they sound the way they sound. I think what they played so far speaks for itself. I think it really does. We're going to take a moment, as we always do in the spring, to recognize a few people. I'm going to acknowledge the drum majors first, and then they're going to help me to acknowledge the seniors. So when I call your name, drum majors, if you could come down here and accept your drum major award. Sienna Brinkotter. Missy Hale. And Emma Linebaugh. You guys stick around here. At this time, we're going to recognize our juniors just by standing. Our juniors have been in band. They put up with Mr. Hendricker and I long enough that they get their letter for their Letterman jacket. Okay, so when I call their name, if you'd please hold your applause until the very end of all the juniors. But juniors, if you hear your name, would you please stand? If you don't hear your name, don't stand. Lainey Baker, Emily Baser, Sienna Brinkotter, Paisley Brown, Emma Hart, Shane Harvey, Gavin Johnson, Abel Courts, Madison Koyak, Miley Koyak, Reese Miguel Mendoza, McKagan Morgan, Abby Moser, Logan Newberg, Jackson Pinnell, Owen Rexshell, Nolan Rhodes, Phoenix Scott, Jared Turney, Abby Van Zee, Leilani Visania, Savannah Williamson, Mark Woods, Tristan Woods, and Dylan Wright. Let's give these juniors a round of applause. We thank you for your service, and we got one more year to go. You can sit down there. All right. And now our Senior Service Awards for putting up with Mr. Hendricker and I one extra year. They get a handy dandy plaque. I also like to refer to it as a fly swatter. This is in whatever order they happen to be in the box. When I call your name, one of the drum majors will hand you your award, and then you will stay standing somewhere along here. Hopefully. We have a lot of them, so bear with me. Xander Cecinas. Yeah, you can applaud for these. You can applaud. Adam Roberts. Ella Stewart. Miranda Blackledge. And it took me 7 years, but I think I finally spelled it right. Did you check it?
It was right.
Was it right? Yeah, you guys gotta stay on the stage in here. Where are you going? Where are you going? Yeah, these people gotta stare at you. Lydia Cahill. This is awkward. Emma Linebaugh. Wyatt Shackman. Alex Behringer. This one only put up with us for 4 years, but it was 4 long years. Taylor Anderson. Maybe 3. I lose track. It was 3. That's all right. We'll consider you part of us anyway. Delaney Melton. Adrian Rodriguez. Yo, Adrian! If you're over 40, you understand that. Audrey Rodriguez. Kennedy Crit. Lily Hendricks. Carly Earl. Avery Brown. Asher Hitchings. Addison Beebe. Shirley Flores. Shirley, you're joking. I'm not joking, and don't call me Shirley. If you're over 50, you know that reference. Michael Harwicker. Brody Etton. Amory Hipwell. Gage Harris. And finally, Missy Hale. That's our seniors. Wait a minute. Sorry, there was one in the bottom of the box. I don't know how that happened. Grace Duke. Is Grace's dad here somewhere? Is Grace's dad here? Hey Grace, there's your dad. Now our seniors. Let's give them a hand. We do have a couple of things that I need to give out. Our Director's Award goes to somebody who's done extra things within the band program. And has just really contributed overall. So this year we have, it's such a big class, we have 2 Directors Awards this year. First one goes to Carly Earl. And our next one goes to Grace Duke. I just want to point out, I just gave Grace a Director's Award, and what she said to me prior to that was, I hate you. All right. We have 2 more awards. One is the Louis Armstrong Jazz Award. We were fortunate to have a jazz band again this year. After many years since COVID, we didn't have one. But we've kind of morphed this into not only jazz, but also focusing on outstanding solo work within the band and really showing an exceptional talent and mastery of their instrument. So this year's Louis Armstrong Award goes to, well, let me make sure this is right, Asher Hitchings. And the pinnacle of all band awards, the John Philip Sousa Award, has been given out for many decades now in high school bands across the country. And it is a special award only allowed to be given to one student in each graduating class at a high school. And it represents everything that John Philip Sousa stood for. Outstanding leadership, outstanding musicianship, and outstanding spirit towards the band program. I'm very proud to say that this year's John Philip Sousa Award goes to Emma Linebaum. Makeup. Oh, okay. All right. So thank you all very much. We do have one more song for you, so we'll do our Carl King song now and finish this out.
Give me that. I got a couple things to say about you. I would just like to take a minute to recognize these wonderful band directors. They have done such a great job over these years. Yeah, go ahead and clap for them. They do so much outside of school. They take their job is outside of school. They find stuff, like extra stuff, like Disney. That's not like something that they have to do. That's something that these people organize for us and find opportunities for us to perform and to put us out there as a band. And besides all the technical stuff that they do for us, they also make 100 kids feel like a family, and I feel like that is something very special in a teacher, a coach, and a leader. I think band class is very near and dear to many of these students in this class, and I just want to thank you guys so much. But I do want to apologize that your senior gift isn't butt pads or canes this year. So my dad, he actually made you both a guitar. So yeah, he made you a bass guitar and he made Mr. Hendricker a guitar. Where's my dad? There he is! There he is! Yeah! Get up here, Pop! Get up here! We thought you might want to start a band with Bentley, so we wanted you to get guitars to match. Thank you guys so much. We love you.
Well, I've got a new toy to mess around with, so we'll just call it a night right there. I want to thank you guys. As you can see, there are so many kids. We have 25 graduating seniors here. We actually had 4 leave us at the semester, so 29. This was a huge class, and you're going to be missed. You're going to be missed. Absolutely. So, thank you so much. All right, go back to your seats. Let's finish it out. You all can get out of here so I can play my toy. We'll see you. Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night.